Okay, so good afternoon, folks. Great to see the energy and everybody here today. It's nice. This is my first event back from the new year, so the holiday season is definitely behind us. So my name is Suk Paul. As Sarah said, I'm from Kudelski Security. What I wanted to do today was to give you an insight into what we call frontline teams experience when, basically, if you think of the tooling that you're talking about today, the people you've had conversations with, when the threat actors are able to navigate through that and get through into your environment, what actually happens? How are organizations dealing with that from a crisis, from a technical risk point of view? So that's what I'll share some insights on. So Kudelski Security, we've been around for over 70 years. Cryptography is where we started. And the cybersecurity division was spun up in 2012, so just over 12 years ago. And we've been serving enterprise organizations across the globe from different verticals. We've got cyber fusion centers spread across different parts of the world, and we're about 450 people strong. What I would say is different about us is we're very much an engineering company. What I mean by that is subject matter expertise is really what we focus on from a partnership and a value standpoint. We've been working with a lot of customers for a long period of time. So a lot of our large customers have been with us for about 8-9 years, and continually we're trying to innovate and give them that value. Just a little reflection, if you like, of what we've been experiencing. If you think about that kind of hype post-pandemic season, and then as threat actors really started to mobilize their capabilities. This is from a report that Recorded Future put out last week. It's a great report. I really recommend reading it because it gives you in-depth analysis on what threat actors have been up to with different verticals, different threat actor campaigns. What I found really interesting here, though, was from 2023 into 2024, there was no pullback from what these threat actors were doing in terms of the success, the ransomware payments they were experiencing. And you see, almost a year ago now, I guess, Lockbit was taken down. And the case that we're going to discuss today is in regards to that threat actor. But I think what we're trying to see, what we're experiencing is these threat actors are not small outfits. I mean, some of them, Conti Ransomware Group, before the Ukraine conflict, they were a $100 million organization. They had a HR team. They had journalists speaking to the media about what they do. So these are not, small players. They're very well versed in basically breaking through into environments. We did over 180 engagements last year, so we were very busy. We saw a lot of the threat actors, I would say, innovating their techniques of how they were getting into environments, and even those who had an endpoint detection response capability in place, given the techniques they were using, whether it was well-known tools, credential leakage, all of these things combined were still allowing them to be successful. So we've helped organizations, as soon as we've been engaged in any kind of incident, we've gone in, and we straight away deploy a sensor to really understand the blast radius. So the team are very well versed in the techniques a lot of these nation-state actors and well-known threat actors use. And I think that's where the human aspect of incident response, as well as technology, is a really key part, because that experience is what helps differentiate us when we're working with customers in what is quite a dark hour, when you realize your systems just can't be accessed anymore, and you're struggling to get hold of people. Coming in and giving them that guidance is really helped. We also provide some of the findings we get from a digital standpoint into court, where a threat actor has been located and that evidence needs to be submitted. So that is something we do on a regular basis. The team also are quite experienced in, under certain personas, discussing things in dark web forums. And essentially, from an intelligence gathering point of view, what that is doing is getting them to get insights on, based on a particular technology stack for our customers, what kind of threats could be coming at them, what kind of campaigns could be prepared. From a remediation standpoint, our key focus is containment, right? We want to be able to stop the bleeding, stop the the infection, if you like, as quick as possible, the containment of that, and try and bring an organization online as soon as possible. Unfortunately, some of you may have experienced this in the past where there's a decision point, right, of do we have to take systems offline? And that's always a dreaded moment. But our mission is always to come in, help the organization, help the teams to come in and basically get them back online as soon as possible. Threat actors they're one step ahead of us. They don't have change management. They don't have a cab on a Wednesday where they have to run their change and get it approved on a particular application. They'll do things when they want to do it. They will adapt their tooling. And if you read the CrowdStrike report last year, and you see the amount of breaches and entries that are taking place without any encryption, it's over 70%. And the big driver for that is credential leakage. So where identities are out there in an initial access broker forum, they're being sold, depending on the type of credentials they are. People are buying those, and hackers are lazy, right? They will try to look for the quickest way to get in, and basically once they're in, if they're getting that lateral movement and access to the right server, it becomes quite a difficult place to be. But we've seen that, and even though in September when I was here, I was talking about the fact that organizations, we're all spending more and more on tooling, especially on the detection side, whether it's on the network, on the endpoints. But ransomware payments aren't stopping in terms of the size and how. I mean, I think last year or the year before, it was over $1 billion of payments that had been made. So it just goes to show that as they adapt their skills, they get the right information, they're able to navigate through those controls and basically get access to the systems that they're looking for. And then it's a case of exfiltrating and getting that out onto the dark web, selling it on, whatever the case may be. So in terms of what our team experiences, there's a number of different, I would say, exposures that they've had to nation states. And I mean, when an alert goes on a nation state, that's when there's a dread, because our Cyber Fusion Center, as well as the incident response teams, know this is going to be a long night, or it could be a long few days, depending on what level of damage has taken place. So this particular case that I'll go through, it just goes to show some of the techniques that they use, but also from a human, I would say, incident response point of view, what our team were able to do in terms of with this particular client, how they were able to help evade the threat actor and actually mitigate the level of damage that could have taken place. So there was a brute force attack here. They continually sent passwords to that particular point, and were able to get access. Through that point, straight away, they jumped onto this server here, and they were able to get the right type of credentials, which gave them much broader movement. Now, these guys they're a managed customer of ours, and they had EDR in place. So as they tried to go to the NG-ROC server, the endpoint detection tool sent an alert to our Cyber Fusion Center. At that point, our team looked at the alert, and they started to investigate it in terms of what's come through, what needs to be done, and they started talking to the customer about what they'd seen. What the threat actor tried to do basically was get down to these servers here, because what they discovered was this is where there was data that would have been of value to them, whether it was to sell it on, whether it was to exfiltrate it and then threaten the organization. So that's where they saw the golden opportunity, and they were trying to download it from these servers here. So this was a lockbit case. Now, obviously, they got taken down last year, but there's a lot of learnings that we've taken from this particular case. So from a timeline standpoint, what's interesting here, if you think about how important those initial minutes are on engaging your teams, engaging with your supply chain, your partners, if you've got someone on retainer, these first few minutes, if any of you have done incident response training, they call it the golden hour. How you assemble your teams, who's making what decisions is absolutely critical. So within 7 or 8 minutes, the alert had come through, we'd analyzed it, we'd started to speak to the customer and said, look, this looks like a genuine incident response case. Are you ready to engage your incident response retainer team? They took a couple of hours, right, internally to figure out what is going on, what impact has taken place. After a couple of hours, they were able to get the team involved. As soon as our team were involved, we started to go in and look through the environment. We started to understand where the blast radius was. We worked with the customer. We coached and guided them on what they needed to do. Ultimately, before the end of the night, we were able to get the threat actor out of the environment. And the best thing was there was no data exfiltrated, so there was no impact from that point of view. Obviously, a lot of lessons learned. So it's just that one alert, right? That one alert triggered everything. So how quickly you respond to that is absolutely critical. And as I said, that golden hour is key in terms of assembling the right teams, making the right decisions, because the threat actors are going to try and adapt. If they go undetected or nothing takes place, how much lateral movement they'll be able to do. If they're on the wrong system and they've got the access to it, then it becomes a headline-grabbing event. You know, your brand, the impact it has, and then it becomes very exhausting. They'll also use tools that, you know, we are familiar with and use all the time, because that will help them stop any alerts actually going off. So, as I said before, containment is our objective from a business continuity point of view, and they'll always time the incident when it's either the holidays, Christmas, or basically when you've got skeleton staff, because like I said, they can do it whenever they like. For us, we've always got our processes and procedures to stick to. We're all trying to do more with less, right? So it does feel like there's just one or two of us trying to fight an army in terms of what's coming at us, tooling. So it's quite a struggle. So what we tend to speak to our customers about is really prioritize your tooling, where you're putting your investments. It's very much a threat-informed defense model that you want to deploy in terms of what's coming at you, which threat actors would be targeting your type of organization, and why. Is it because of vulnerabilities you've got within your technology stack? Is it because of the vertical that you're in? There may be some contention or controversy that might be associated with it. So these things combined allow you to prioritize that, and then you are able to put the resources where you need them based on what you know is coming at you. And I think, as somebody said earlier, there is no silver bullet-proof solution out there, but it's about making sure you're prioritizing those resources. It's really important to bring everybody on the journey. This is never going to change, because as things are adapting, technology is changing, the landscape, the macroeconomic events that are changing, making sure your leadership understands the challenges and pressures you are under, but in their language, not in the technical language that we may be used to, but from a business speak, from a strategy and impact point of view. When you're working with your teams, what we always try and advise clients is, with the technology investments and the people you do have, empower them, configure it and use it to how it should be used. If you're always going to default to a person or a human, then you're putting more strain on the team, so leverage that. Make sure you're good at justifying your budget as well as asking for it. So what have you done with the pounds that you've spent over the last year, and demonstrate what you've been able to mitigate. And I think you want to really encapsulate all of that in real good governance. So transparency, awareness, what you're doing and why you're doing it. I think it's always great to find champions in the organization, not in your actual team, right? So find people in different departments and get them to understand the mission. Yes, we all do phishing exercises and try and raise awareness that way, but bring them on the mission and maybe give them some insights into the type of impact some of these breaches can have on a brand, on an organization, and get them emotionally a bit involved as well, because then when they're out there, they'll start to echo your message. They'll start to highlight what the challenges are that we're facing and how to try and protect your organizations from a digital standpoint. And I think, this event and events like this really bring it home about our spirit of community, because listening to chatter today out there, you learn and listen to, when we ideate and we share experiences of what did you learn, what did you see, what did I do, I think together we show what the power of community can do, right? And whether that's at an enterprise level, at a public sector level, and this is something we're really proud of, and we're continuing to do it. We're not able to talk about everything, but with what the National Crime Agency did last year, we played a key role in contributing some of that intelligence and what we learned there. So I'm going to close there, but I really thank you for your time. If you do have any questions, we're outside Kudelski Security. Thank you for listening.